over which you have been invited. Mr. Speaker, I have heard a lot of complaints from my members here. A lot of complaints from my members here regarding this particular cabinet secretary about how contemptuous she continues to treat not only members of parliament, but also the institution of parliament as a whole. This is something that cannot be countenanced, especially in the face of the 2010 Constitution, which bestows on this House enormous responsibility. Enormous responsibility. Mr. Speaker, let me say this. That if this House wants to protect its integrity, its credibility, and safeguard its independence and authority, it must use one such case as an example. Just take the boldest step and indict this cabinet secretary once and for all. Mr. Speaker, I will be more than happy. Honorable Chungwa, I'll be more than happy to second you if you are to move a motion here of impeachment against this cabinet secretary. And there are many. There are many, these kind of persons, these characters. There are many. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, I don't engage with them, but my members do. But the reports I am getting is that there are a number of them who are behaving in a similar manner. We want to remind them, wherever they are, that you cannot wield any more power than people who have been elected by Kenyans and sent to this House to represent them and address the issues of concern to the whole country. You could be sitting in State House or in the Cabinet Office, in your Cabinet Minister's offices, but you must understand that this House has got authority over you. This House. So I want to really plead, and I'm seeing this letter, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this letter on the face of it is really insulting. This letter is dated 5th July, which is today. And I am told she was required to be here. I didn't know because I don't take much interest. But I am told she was supposed to be here today. If you got a letter inviting you to Parliament for whatever reason, either to a committee or to the whole House, for whatever reason, 3 weeks in advance, you cannot wait until the last minute and then you write to Parliament that you are engaged in some nebulous activity, in some dingy places. Mr. Speaker, you cannot do that. And in fact, I will be inviting, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I will be inviting my colleagues not to wait for the Honorable Chungwa to initiate that process. I would be inviting my colleagues, especially on this side, please proceed and initiate the process of sending this cabinet secretary home, and you will get my fullest support. Thank you.
Thank you. I will not escalate that debate. I think wherever the minister is, she has had order. The minister has had very strong sentiments from the leadership of the House. And I'll order, honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. Honorable Ichungwa, you just remind the minister her responsibility under Article 153 of the Constitution. Order. Will now have Minister Alice Wahome of Water, who is in the House. We'll move to that. Honorable members, and I want to thank the majority and minority leaders. This House is the center of the people's will. And ministers under Article 153 of the Constitution are accountable to the House. And the words of the Constitution say, whenever required, shall attend, not may attend or will attend, shall attend to the House. So, Honorable Ichung'wah, you are showing a good example as majority leader. And Wandai informed the minister that, and indeed all ministers, none of them comes to the House at their choosing. They come to the House when the House has material for them to come and attend to. So it's contemptible for a minister to write a letter and say, I'm not coming today, I'll come next Wednesday. She doesn't know what is there next Wednesday. Now we have the Honorable Minister for Water, Alice Wahome. We have about 4 questions for you. I want you to compose your answers. I should be done with you in an hour. Hold. The question must be asked first. The member for Alego Usonga, the Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
And like we have evolved, Honorable members, Honorable Atandi, hold your horses. We allow the member, the questioner, to ask a question. He will have the second bite on a supplementary. I'll allow one joyrider, and if there is sufficient reason, I can give a second one.
Okay.
Honorable Atandi, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to ask question number 7 of 2023 in today's order paper. And as you have said, the question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Question number 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the steps that are in place to resolve the issue of collapsing dikes around Lake Kanyaboli, which caused floods in the area that displaced and destroyed property in Alego Usonga and Budalangi constituencies in May 2023? Number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary state measures being pursued by the government to conserve the lake in view of the fact that it is on the verge of extinction, despite being a source of tourism revenue for both the national and county governments of Siaya on account of its unique species of fish and its support to aquaculture and other associated human activities? Number 3, could the Minister indicate the timelines within which the affected victims whose properties were destroyed and who have been rendered homeless by the calamity, when will they receive compensation? Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Atande. Honorable Wahome, may I proceed to answer?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I hope the mood is good, Honorable Speaker. May I take this opportunity to thank the honorable members who have forwarded these questions. I'll make my response to the honorable member who has raised this question, the member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Samuel Atandi. Honorable Speaker, the first question was to explain the steps in place to resolve the issue of collapsing dikes around Lake Kanyambori. Honorable Speaker, I wish to state that the flood control across the country is being implemented by the National Water Harvesting and Storage Authority. The purpose is to bring the effects of flooding to manageable levels by implementing projects that will reduce perennial flooding problem. Going to the question that he raised, Honorable Speaker, the Lake Kanyambori is Lake Kanyambori is an oxbow lake found along River Yara. The river disconnected its course during the meandering stage, forming the lake. In 1968, the government of Kenya, in collaboration with Netherlands, constructed the retention dike to reclaim Yara swamp for agricultural purposes. The dike prevents water from the lake entering into the reclaimed land. Honorable Speaker, over the years, the stability of the dike has deteriorated. When the course to the lake got blocked, water gets its alternative route, and hence the breaking of the dikes, and submerge the farms, destroying, of course, properties along the way and displacing people. The ministry, through the National Water Harvesting and Storage Authority, Honorable Speaker, has put in place the following measures. One, restoration of old dike. The authority has resurveyed the old dike to ensure the narrow areas are expanded so that large volumes of water is contained within its course. The collapsed end or breached or broken section of the dike will be redesigned and constructed afresh to meet the functional integrity of the dike. We are also going to do dredging of the river channel. Due to continuous silting, Honorable Speaker, the river channel has also been affected by the silting. We will work on that to allow better flow and better depth of the river. Construction of the new dike in the areas where the water escapes and submerge the farms, the authority will survey, design, and construct new dikes. These measures will regulate the flow of the water downstream and protect people from the effects of the flood. The budget we have come up with, Honorable Speaker, is Kenya shillings 200 million, and this will enable the complete restoration of the dike to meet its full functional requirements. However, due to budgetary allocation constraints, Your Honorable Speaker, this can only be done in phases. In this financial year, 2023-2024 fiscal year, the government, through my ministry, has allocated Kenya shillings 30 million for the restoration of the dike. Honorable Speaker, we will be seeking the support of the honorable member and other members of this parliament to support the entire budget along the year. Honorable Speaker, I go to question number 2. What measures are being pursued by the government to conserve the lake in view of the fact that it is on the verge of extinction, despite being a source of tourism revenue for both the national government and the county governments? Honorable Speaker, we have undertaken the following. A study on the lake catchment area to determine the intensity of the human activities which generate negative effects to the lake and River Yara. We will also sensitize the communities upstream to ensure that human activities are friendly to the environment and hence reducing the sediment in the lake or loading into the lake. We'll also institute a program of dealing with desilting the lake and rehabilitate the deteriorated area that will include the community around the lake. Honorable Speaker, I've been also asked to indicate the timelines. I would say it is immediate. The ministry is obviously not able to comment to the question on compensation, Honorable Speaker. These are hazards, natural causes. The ministry has no funding for compensation and will not be in a position to compensate property lost, lives lost. It's unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, but this is a natural disaster that cannot be placed on the government. When flooding occurs, the government is found in that situation, and therefore it is not a matter that the government would be able to deal with. Thank you very much.
Does Rollins and Fletcher apply?
Mr. Speaker, sorry, I beg your pardon.
The famous case.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I do agree. You know, the movement of the river is something, it's just like when an animal is found on the road, the animal is supposed to be compensating the person who is driving the car, if especially the cow is yours, not the other way around. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Atandi, supplementary.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me say, Honorable Speaker, that I thank the Cabinet Secretary for the comprehensive and well-researched response which she has given to this House on the question which I raised. I just want to plead with her for the following: that one, if it would be possible for the authority to begin to work on this on the lake as she has promised, because right now, before the long rains begin, this is the moment which, if any work is to be done, it should be done now before the rains begin. That is my first prayer, Honorable Speaker. My second prayer is that she has indicated that there is an allocation of 30 million shillings which can be used to begin the work. And Honorable Speaker, I'm aware that this House allocated about 350 million shillings to address the questions of flooding across the country. And given that this particular flooding of Lake Kanyabuli is affecting livelihoods of about 20,000 people, about 10,000 people in Alego Usonga in 2 wards, Central Alego and Usonga wards, and also in Budalangi constituency. I was going to plead with her that out of this budgetary allocation, if she could consider increasing the allocation so that we sort out this issue once and for all. That is my second prayer, Honorable Speaker. And lastly, I wanted to tell her that as the area member of parliament, I'm going to cooperate with the authority to ensure that some of the recommendations she has put here that will require the intervention of the community to address the perennial flooding are handled well. I'm going to cooperate with the community and we work together on that. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Alice, I can take note that. I can take one joyrider. Yes, the Honorable Okello.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I also want to thank our capable Cabinet Secretary, who is an immediate former colleague, and her response to the call of the House is very, very important, and I applaud her for that. Honorable Speaker, Nyando constituency is known for nothing but flooding. In fact, all across the country, whereas we struggle to speak Swahili, but we have one lady with a begging emblem saying Serikali Saidia every year. And Honorable Speaker, this is orchestrated by the perennial bursting of the riverbank, River Nyando, that causes great havoc to the people of that area. And every year, Honorable Speaker, we have to move to higher grounds. 3 schools have since permanently relocated to higher grounds, and we had to abandon former schools, putting aside monies, especially from CDF, to build a new school or new schools, Honorable Speaker. So it is a disaster that is not just in waiting, but it is a disaster in place.
You are making a speech. Ask a question.
Honorable Speaker, my question therefore is, whereas this is not a new phenomenon, what is in place by the ministry to address this perennial flooding of Nyando constituency? And again, there is a Tau Head, which is a small island at the mouth of the river Nyando getting into Lake Victoria, which should be dredged to also help address this menace, Honorable Speaker. So I would want to hear from Madam Waziri whether I need to go back home and tell them to brace themselves for the longest haul, or there are plans in place to help us address this once and for all, Honorable Speaker. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable Minister will take Wanjala. as an additional joyrider.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's unfair when we ask questions, you call us a joy riders, because the question belongs now to the House, and any member is supposed to
enjoy the joy, Wanjala. Ask the question.
to contribute. But thank you, Waziri, who is our former colleague, and I remember I predicted whether she will be a minister in the next government, and she will confirm that, and indeed she is today. As she is aware, Budalangi is known for flooding from two rivers, that is River Yala and River Nzoia. And these rivers require training and dredging. In fact, on Yala, you cannot build dikes because it is already in the swamp. So the best thing to be done is to train it and dredge to allow the waters to move into the lake. So what plans do they have? Because when you are allocating 30 million, it's meager, and yet you will allocate to other places with the dams, you allocate big monies, and they are just squandered. But this is about the lives of people who have cried year in, year out. Would she consider increasing the allocation? Because this affects the lives of people whose houses collapse every year, whose everything that belongs to them is washed away. And Mr. Speaker, we saw in Nakuru, when the dam broke and water went into people, collapsed people's houses, this government, Mr. Speaker, erected or built houses, new houses, in fact, permanent houses for those people in Nakuru. Why is it so difficult to build also houses for the people of Budalangi when they are affected by this flood that collapse their houses?
Thank you. Last, Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As you are aware, when Wanjala suffers, I suffer more, because when they are displaced, they come to stay at my place waiting for the water to recede. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to ask the Minister or the Cabinet Secretary that while they are trying to solve the issue of Kanyaboli in Alego Songa as well as Budalangi, please ask the technical people to also include the riverbed around Mahaba in Namuduru sublocation, as long as the Sidoho Dam, that now because of the flooding from Budalangi, has now combined, now we literally have a river connecting Sidoho Dam and Nzoia River, essentially displacing close to about 100 households in Mahaba area. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Alice. You have attended supplementary, Jared Okello, Wanjala, and Oundo. If you can answer them in that order.
Thank you. The Honorable attendee, supplementary question is as to whether we can increase the amount of 30 million so that possibly we can do more work. And maybe when are we starting? We will start immediately because we now have the budget. But in terms of increasing the amount, I may not be able to commit now, because the amount of 300 million that you have pointed out is actually 450 million Kenya shillings, but it is going to various rivers to deal with the same problem like the one facing your constituency. So for now, I think I will not be able to commit beyond 30 million Kenya shillings. But as we go along, possibly, and you could also visit our offices so that we can have a candid conversation about the funding and how constrained the funding is. The second question, supplementary one, is from Honorable Okero on Livanyando. The amount of 450 million shillings that I have talked about, where we have taken the amount of 30 million for the first dike. We also have 30 million for the Livanyando, and therefore all this work will move simultaneously. We are aware of the challenges of River Nyando and the perpetual flooding, but may I confirm that, and I'm aware, the long-term solution actually is the construction of Soikoru Dam, which is a 20 billion project that was meant to regulate the floods in River Nyando. We are having challenges in funding that particular dam, but we have called out, we are reconsidering putting it out for private investment because initially it was funded, it was hoped and designed to be funded under EPC, engineering, procurement and construction, under GOK, entire 20 billion. For now, our physical space is unable to meet that, so we are evaluating the project to commit it to PPP. The last question, Honorable Wajara, thank you very much for your support. I want to confirm to the Honorable Member, and I believe he's aware, that we have recently taken up a project of 34 kilometers of dikes construction along River Zoya, which has costed the government approximately 2 billion Kenya shillings. So your constituency and River Zoya is also in our planning, and more work will be done. Indeed, you have taken the largest share. And finally, is it Mahaga? Honorable Oudo, I will look at your request, and I believe we have factored this particular one under this budget. If it has not been done, we will reorganize that particular budget because internally we can be able to do that for this specific flooding component. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Let her finish answering Oundo's question, has she? She's finished.
Yes, I have finished, Honorable Speaker.
And
Wanjala, I have 4 other questions.
the rules require that when you call out a point of order, you don't have to stand up until you have been given an opportunity to do so. What is your point of order, Honorable Wanjala?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, sometimes you wear glasses, so I thought you were short-sighted. You may not see far. That's why I'm studying. But, Mr. Speaker, it was very clear that in Nakuru, the dam broke, Solai Dam. And we saw the whole government, this very government, went there, and then it reconstructed for the people's houses, permanent houses. In Budalangi and in Nyando, we have had floods, our houses collapsed, our properties washed away, our crops washed away. When we ask compensation, they skip those kind of questions. Would she be clear to answer what criteria did they use to construct houses for the people in Nakuru, and they are not able to use the same style to construct houses for the people of Budalangi?
Yes, because there's another point of order here.
Mr. Speaker, the Solai Dam tragedy occurred in December 2018. This government that is in place was elected in 2022. So here I'm raising on a point of order on facts. Honorable member for Butalangi Wanjala is not being factual. And I think a serious matter like that of people of Solai having been involved in a dam tragedy should not be trivialized by the member in such a way. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Alice, can order, Wanjala, order. There is order, Wanjala. There is no altercation between you members. Alice?
Thank you.
Order, Wanjala. She's responding to your point of order. Order, Wanjala. Order, Raphael Wanjala.
The honourable member is pursuing the question on compensation of the people who have been affected. I had earlier said that it is not possible for the government of the Republic of Kenya, which you are part of, to be able to meet compensation claims for all people who may be affected by natural disasters, be they earthquake, lightning, floods, even sometimes the movement of earth. However, during such crises or disasters, sometimes the government is able to recorrect itself and respond like any other Kenyans whenever we call for support, both from public and private, and under the rapid disaster response, then the government would sometimes be able to make some interventions. But on individual compensation, day-to-day flooding, that honorable member is expecting the government to do things it is not able. In any case, the government cannot be said to be liable over those kind of disasters. Thank you.
Member for Ikolomani, Bernard Shinali.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to ask question 158 of 2023 to the Cabinet Secretary, Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why implementation of Moist Bridge Matunda water supply and sanitation project was transferred to North Rift Valley Waterworks Development Agencies, despite the fact that 60% of the project catchment area falls under Kakamega County, and critical stages of procurement, namely advertisement, award of tender, and project evaluation had been completed under the Lake Victoria North Waterworks Development Agency. Number 2, clarify whether the North Rift Valley Waterworks Development Agencies has the capacity to successfully implement the project, considering that it was allocated only Kenya shillings 10 million in the financial year 2022-23 supplementary budget for recruitment of staff, and if so, provide details of the action plan taken by the agency for implementation of the project and timelines of completion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Alice. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In response to the question by the Honorable Bernard Shinali, MP for Ikoromani, I want to go straight to the response, if I'm allowed, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, the first response to explain why the implementation was moved from one agency to another, and the agency that is now handling the matter is the North Rift Valley Water Development Works Agency. This agency is one of the 9 waterworks development agencies under my ministry. It was established by Gazette notice in 2020. You are right when you say that it was allocated money, 10 million for last financial year, but now we are in another financial year and it is still supported by the government. Honorable Speaker, the project will be carried out by the agency. The procurement was done by the Lake Victoria North, but implementation of this project has been agreed that it will be carried out by North Rift Development Agency, Waterworks Development Agency. We will implement using the design, and the data available does not reflect the position of the honorable member, because we are talking about or covering 186 persons, 103,186 persons. Because you say that 60% are from Kakamega County, and I really don't think we should profile these particular issues. 55,000 persons are from Moy's Bridge town, which is entirely in Uasin Gishu. That leaves a balance of 47,000 people. In total, the number of persons to be covered or who will benefit from this project, Honorable Speaker, from Uasin Gishu County is 74,552, translating to 72%. I have put in an annexure there to support that data. The intake and treatment plant are located in Trans Nzoia under the jurisdiction of Lake Victoria North, that is true, but the water will move on gravity. Going further, the main storage tank of 1,200 is located in Maji Mazuri, which is in Uasin Gishu. Treated water gravity, again in the same county, out of 5 storage tanks that will be constructed with this project are located in Uasin Gishu, and 1 storage tank in Kakamega. The rest of the project is located in Miribani area of Uasin Gishu, Maji Mazuri, and the last one at Seleni one. Okay, maybe that one I'll leave out. But finally, Mr. Speaker, Lake Victoria North Waterworks Development Agency did the award and then transferred the final contract to North Rift Valley Waterworks Development Agency. It has, we have assessed the agency, and the capacity of the agency has been properly evaluated. The agency has 29 staff, most of whom are deployed from the ministry and sister agencies. The technical competencies are 6 engineers for this particular agency, 1 each for hydrologist, geologist, and sociologist. Most of the deployed staff are senior and competent officers in water and sanitation. Therefore, it is not quite factual or true, and with great respect to the honorable member, to say that North Rift Waterworks Development Agency does not have any capacity or sufficient capacity because of the sum of Kenya shillings 10 million. May I confirm the sum of Kenya shillings 10 million was for purposes of additional capacity by way of staff employment and other technical support. And therefore, it's one of the agencies that we put out for purposes of support. Finally, the agency has also been allocated 200 million Kenya shillings to start the project for the last supplementary proposals. And then we are looking at, for the current financial year, a further Kenya shillings 400 million. And we are ready to start the project, Honorable Speaker. The project will be completed in 24 months, and my annexure speaks to that, including the data of the persons that will benefit. Thank you.
Ali, are you satisfied? I give somebody else.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not actually satisfied with the answer. Maybe the Honorable CS requires more information because the staff she's talking about, Mr. Speaker, was actually transferred from Lake Victoria North, including the 10 million that we are talking, she's mentioning, which I have mentioned here, was also transferred for the administration money from Lake Victoria North, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe we want Lake Victoria North water agencies to continue serving the people of the Western region. This is the only major project which was there. Since the one which was also there, Kakamega Bungoma bulk water is also stuck, maybe somewhere, I don't know, maybe the CS will enlighten us on the same. We are wondering actually, Madam CS, if this is happening, if Lake Victoria North is going to survive, looking even at the budgets which are there, and they have been moved to Lake Victoria North, to North Rift Valley Waterworks, Mr. Speaker.
Innocent Mugabe. I'll come to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would want to do a follow-up question on the same. Moisbridge Matunda is in my constituency of Likuyani. And I think the CS is not well informed, or whoever gave her the data gave her the wrong data. I live in Moisbridge. When she says it is entirely in Wasingishu, the people of Likuyani may think that somebody from Wasingishu came to be their MP. So that one is not factual, because a very big chunk of Moisbridge is in Likuyani, Kakamega. Number two, this is a very emotive issue in Moisbridge and Matunda, because we have very serious boundary issues between Kakamega and Wasingishu. And over time, Wasingishu has been encroaching the Kakamega side. As we speak now, Mr. Speaker, we have a primary school in Moisbridge called Moi Township, where I schooled. Administratively, it is in Kakamega, but geographically it's claimed, and that whole area is claimed.
Ask the question related to this.
My question is, what was the motive of transferring this project from Lake Victoria North to a new agency that is struggling with the capacity called the North Rift Waterworks? Number two.
One question at a time, Innocent.
Number two, we have, when we were designing this project, North Rift was part of the Rift Valley Waterworks. But the project was designed and the procurement was done by Lake Victoria North. The wisdom was, it is Lake Victoria North had better capacity and even a better implementation system because of the location and the beneficiaries of the project. Majority were in Kakamega County. Then when they created the North Rift Agency, what was the reason now?
Mugabe, you are debating. You are not asking a question.
Now
what is your question?
What was the motive of transferring it from Lake Victoria North to North Rift Water Services?
DK. Member for Soy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's quite unfortunate that the member for Likuyani has been discussing and has decided to IF part of Moisbridge area into Likuyani, but I want to state categorically that Moisbridge, which is Moisbridge ward, falls squarely in Soy constituency was in Kishu County. So I also want to state what the CS has said about North Rift Water Services. North Rift Water Services is a new water services that is handling that region. And that project, 75% of that project serves the people of Soy, that is the people of the entire Moist Bridge, which falls...
Order, DK. Honorable member, this is question time.
But I need to clarify because...
We are asking the minister questions, and I've given you an opportunity to joyride on Shinali's question.
So,
both you and Innocent Mugabe are making speeches instead of asking questions.
I will ask.
Can you ask your question?
Okay. My question to the CS is that looking at the volume, looking at the portfolio of the project, which is about 2 billion, and looking at what has been awarded so far, which is around, the last time I checked, it was 40 million, and now I'm hearing that it has been given another 200 million. When are we going to complete the project so that the people of Moist Bridge and the people of Matunda, which falls squarely in Soy constituency, can be able to benefit? Thank you.
Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, the question that needs to be answered here is that what informed or misinformed the decision to change the works from Rift Valley North Water Services to Rift Valley Water Works, that is a new entity.
No,
what informed?
Is it from Victoria North to...
Yeah, from like Victoria North to to Waterworks, the new entity. What informed that decision? Is it vendor driven? What is the intention?
The member for cases, Alice, take all those and answer them very quickly because we are running out of time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to raise this question, especially pertaining North Rift Waterworks. And since it has come to the floor for discussion, I want to pick up a question with the CS to tell the country, and more specific, the people from North Rift, that the spirit behind formation of North Rift Waterworks was to address the challenges of waters related to the entire almost 8 counties that falls within North Rift. I want to know what plans are there to ensure that particular waterworks is capacitated enough in terms of staffing, in terms of resources, because we are endowed with several water bodies within that region. So like I says, we have Karita Dam, we have Kases Dam, that Lake Victoria developed some little works, but then it is incomplete. What plans are in place to resource North Rift Waterworks to its full capacity in terms of employing staff, in terms of giving adequate resources so that water challenges can be addressed in that region, in that spell to the ladder? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bukose?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to ask the CS to explain to us the benefits that the people of North Rift, especially, you know, when this Rift and Soya on the upper side is Sabwani, and then Kimoson, which is in Endebess. How do the people in the upper part of the Rift and Soya, now that we were neglected by the Lake Victoria North, how are we going to benefit? What are the benefits that the people of North Rift, especially in Endebess, Kwangsa, and parts of Kiminini, which are along that river, going to benefit from the new body?
Last, Bissau. After that, you answer those who got the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, mine is a supplementary one to the CS. We are the producers in Trans Nzoia. That is where the water source comes from, starting from the Cherengani Hills to the Mount Elgon side. But if you look at the situation in Kiminini specifically, hardly a tenth of the households have the water. Now, we would like the CS to assure us, even as she thinks of the restructuring, that she will consider the producers, because most of those pipes, when you're distributing the water going to the North Rift, to the Eldoret side, or to the Kakamega Bungoma side, they come through Kiminini. So we would like the minister to reassure us that since this is the simplest and cheapest installation, that people of Kiminini are going to be assured that they have the water before it's actually distributed to the other areas. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, can you answer those?
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I will seek indulgence of members to answer those questions maybe jointly, as much as possible.
They're all related.
Because they are all related. But I could start with the last one about Kimilili and say that once a project is designed and it has been implemented, it has started the journey of implementation, procurement is complete. Sometimes it is not possible because the design guides the implementation journey. It's not easily possible to change. However, the honorable member might want to visit the ministry so that we look entirely at the area that he has raised the concern and see what plans we may have as a ministry or what plans we can take on board to deal with the concerns of that particular community. The honorable member Bukose also is following on the same. The upper part of this particular project, jurisdiction of this project, do not seem, and in fact, the North Rift area as a whole, because the need for the North Rift as a Waterworks Development Agency was because the Lake Victoria North was covering a very big area, and ownership issues and implementation challenges, including maybe neglect because of the huge region that it was covering, made it necessary or justified the need for the new Waterworks Development Agency. The agency is here with us. We cannot, as Parliament, sit and complain about capacity. I think the honorable members should help me to build capacity for this agency to be able to implement the project. The project has a consultant in place. The consultant is experienced. The contractor has won the contract on basis of capacity. So in terms of implementation, Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm to the members, and the members have the role of oversight to play. Let's work together and ensure that this project is actually completed. I want also to say that in terms of the issue of what was the intention, may I confirm that it was not ill-advised, it was not motivated by any particular bad thinking, but for purposes of the larger community ownership of where the project covers. I agree, Kakamega is, people are a beneficiary, but when you look at the population data, you will find that it is well suited to be implemented by the North Rift Waterworks Development Agency. And I think the questions should be, will Kakamega or the design area be covered irrespective of which county it is? Yes, we will go by the design, and therefore there should be no fears. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, the question that would put this matter to rest is when we shall complete and where is the funding. On where is the funding, the ministry has worked to provide last budget, which has ended, 200 million, and then we have also in the current year, Kenya shillings 400 million, that gives us 600 million. It is one of the projects that actually we could say, taking into account the entire cost of 2 billion that has been able to secure, we have been able to secure sufficient portion, noting the final basket of the country that is completely constrained. So I'm comfortable with the 600 million, and the next, during the period of the project implementation, we will be able to engage Parliament for the balances so that we can complete. In terms of soil, so the issues of whether it is soy or Moi Bridge or Kimilili, I think I would plead with the honorable members, we deal with the implementation of the project so that the areas it can cover. But going forward, in case it is possible, you know, and that's why I'm inviting the honorable member for Kimilili, we can look at additional intake if the resource, the water source, is able to cover, but not immediately. Let's first implement the project and see then whether there is a possibility of variation of the design so that we can come to Parliament to get additional funding for an extra intake or expanded intake beyond the current design. Thank you.
For Turkana Central, Joseph Emade.
Honorable Speaker, I rise under Standing Order 42A6B to beg to ask the question. Could the Cabinet Secretary, 1, provide a report on the status of Nauros irrigation scheme and the Nadoto irrigation scheme in Turkana County, and explain the steps put in place to rehabilitate, expand, and sustainably operationalize the irrigation schemes? And number 2, outline measures that the ministry has put in place to expand irrigation farming in Turkana Central constituency so as to enhance food security and alleviate poverty, given that the aridity in Turkana County does not permit rain-fed agriculture. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will go straight to the answer on issue number 1, that I provide a report on the status of Nauros irrigation scheme and the other scheme, Nandoto scheme, both in Turkana County, and explain the steps that we have put in place. Honorable Speaker, Nauros irrigation scheme is located in Kangatotha ward of Turkana Central Sub-County. And this is a community-owned irrigation project that covers about 500,000 acres. The scope of the works carried out included rehabilitation of the intake works, lining of the main canals, sub-main canals, tertiary furrows and basins, bird protection works and fencing, all at a cost of Kenya shillings 62 million. The construction started in June 2013, so it is an old project, and completed in the following year, 2014, and handed over to the community for production of food. Currently, the scheme is not operational due to unstable intake. Yes, due to unstable intake of high silt, result of the high silt load from River Takwel. The National Irrigation Authority has, however, carried out needs analysis of the project, and the following rehabilitation works have been proposed. Without possibly taking too much time, in short, we are saying we will do the rehabilitation, intake and protection works, construction of main canal, desilting, branch and block canals, dike draining, road crossings will be attended to, and division boxes and check structures. And we have put in a budget of Kenya shillings 34 million shillings, Honorable Speaker. The rehabilitation works will be implemented by NIA, and I believe Honorable Speaker, we have provided for both schemes, the next one that I'll go to, Kenya shillings 50 million to commence the work that the honorable member has concern about. That is the irrigation scheme, number one. Then number two, Nandoto irrigation scheme, Honorable Speaker, is located in Kerio ward of Turkana Central constituency. The community initiated this scheme around 2004. The community mutually constructed the intake and canal as well as distribution system to facilitate crop production in the area. Due to inadequate, unreliable water, the community approached the district irrigation officer then under the Ministry of Water and Irrigation and developed design proposals for rehabilitation and expansion of the works. That was 2007 and 2009 period. The implementation of the proposal was affected by limited funds. The project proposal was then submitted for implementation under the expanded National Irrigation Program undertaken by NIA. The scope of the works include rehabilitation of intake works, lining of the main canals, sub-main canals, tertiary, and as shown there in my response. This scope was expanded to cover 25 acres, was expanded from 25 acres to 500 acres and to benefit 1,200 households at an extra cost of 79.8 million shillings. And the project implementation started in 2013 and completed in 2015 and was handed over in August 2015 to the community. May I say it is still a community project. Since its completion, the project has been affected, as I said, by high silt load from River Takwel, and hence optimal performance of this project is in question. And further, it has been infested by the famous Mathenge, or infamous, sorry, Mr. Speaker, Mathenge plant, and that therefore has reduced production for this irrigation project. We have done our studies, and we have, Mr. Speaker, given that in my response, I believe the honorable member will be able to pick up what I have said in response, and the total cost of the intervention works that we shall undertake through NIA cost Kenya shillings 42,350,000. And I have said, in total, that particular irrigation scheme and the other one are covering about 80 million shillings, an amount that we have so far secured Kenya shillings 50 million, and therefore we will be able to proceed with the intervention works to see how these two schemes can come back to full production. Honorable Speaker, the other question was what measures the ministry has put in place to expand farming in Turkana Central constituency so as to enhance food security and alleviate poverty. Ministry has carried out a needs analysis to Turkana Central and identified that there is urgent need, and we all know, to ensure that existing schemes are functional, that is one, and that they are productive. We are also in liaison, working together with the county government, identifying new areas for purposes of irrigation, and as a policy, you are aware, the direction of the Kenya Kwanza government is that we want to put under irrigation close to 1.8 million acres. Turkana County is on board towards that effort, and therefore looking in for collaboration with the Parliament because of the crucial role that Parliament plays in terms of funding. It is possible then to have additional land for irrigation, but also revisit all the existing schemes for expansion for better enhanced production. And for these particular 2 projects, we are moving them, as I said, to each have 400 acres put under irrigation, and we are planning also to undertake an immediate inventory mapping of the existing schemes, potential areas, as I had said, and the honorable member will be advised when my team goes to the ground for some of those interventions so that we can have the participation of the honorable member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Emade.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to applaud the effort that the Minister or the CS has made, and the assurance that 50 million is already set aside. But, Honorable Speaker, in line with Article 43, sub-Article 1C of the Constitution of Kenya, and also in line with SDG number 2, I will beg the Minister, the CS, to give us the assurance that even the extra amount or the balance of 28 million or so will still be available in this financial year of 2023-2024. That's my concern number 1. Concern number 2, Honorable Speaker, is the assurance that the current president, President Ruto, is the one who launched this project of Nauros irrigation scheme. And to me, there is that assurance that President Ruto will still remain felt under that irrigation scheme. And that the minister, the CS, I will request as my question number 2 that he plans when will she be able to come to visit these 2 irrigation schemes that are not distant apart but separated only by the river. When is she going to come so that she can be able to understand the kind of people who are in this area, so that she brings her heart from Nairobi and takes it also to Turkana, and also understand.
Joseph, you have asked 2
number
questions.
3,
Order.
Honorable Speaker.
2 are enough.
To see if
Irene Mayaka.
To see if, Honorable Speaker, to see if.
Let him finish. Let him finish. Members,
Honorable
when
Speaker,
I give you a supplementary, just ask 1 question.
To see to that, apart from using canals, is there a way in which dryland farming can also be exploited? Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Irene Mayaka, 1 question, please, each.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And yes, I do have 1 supplementary question to the Cabinet Minister. Mine is a follow-up on an issue that, as Nyamira County leaders, we had sought audience with the Cabinet Secretary regarding the issue of having our own water and sewerage company, because currently we are sharing one with Gusii County, and I'd just like to know from the Cabinet Secretary the status of our request to her. I thank you.
Professor Phyllis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Cabinet Secretary is in relation to an irrigation scheme in Moiben constituency called Meibeki Irrigation Project. That project had been designed last year and had been tendered, but all of a sudden it was stopped. I don't know for what reason, so I'm seeking for a clarification from the CS. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask a supplementary question in the form that, Mr. Speaker, there are many irrigation schemes that have been started in this country, in different parts of the country. Even where I come from, there is Lower Kuja irrigation scheme. Mr. Speaker, these irrigation schemes, since they were started, all of them, all over the country, and a lot of money appropriated by this House in form of budgeting, no single crop has come out of those irrigation schemes. There's nowhere they feed anywhere, any people in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, they're almost turning to a scab, to a biggest scandal in the country. What will the minister do this time differently, so that at least we can have a single bag of maize from these irrigation schemes?
Roeda, Alice, those are very short questions. I want you to take the shortest time possible.
Okay. Bwana Spika, swali langu kwa waziri, ana mipango gani kwa watu wa Lamu Mashariki kwa upande wa unyunyizaji? Kila maeneo bunge tunasikia kuna unyunyizaji. Sisi pia watu wa Kiunga wanaweza kunyunyiza, na kuna bawa kule ambalo tunaweza, wanapanda sana matikiti maji. So na pia Lamu Mashariki kwa jumla, mipango ya maji kutoka Tana Delta kuja Lamu Mashariki imefikia wapi? Kwa sababu tumezunguka na maji, lakini maji ni chumvi, watu wa Lamu Mashariki hawana maji.
Who is the member next in front of you, Roida? I can't see clearly there. That is Protas Akuja.
Yes.
Yes, Protas.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary a very short question. And the question is, when will be the contractor for Kakwem Dam situated at Kenya-Uganda border in Urum location? When will he hand over the project and be able to repair this particular dam, because the dam cost was around 250 million, and this dam has started leaking and is about to break its banks, which can be a disaster to the community living downstream. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me, the Honorable Member for the last question. Loima
Akuja from
yes,
Loima
Akuja, my good friend Protas has even maybe written to me. If it was not part of the issues you raised, may I confirm that I'm available. We visit that dam in August, so we will give you proposed dates that possibly we can do that. May I leave the rest of the answers after we have visited, or solution solving the issues after we have visited, and I'm sure we will want to be accompanied by you, Honorable Speaker, and other leaders in that region.
Honorable Minister, if what Protas is saying is true, that the dam is leaking and almost breaking its banks, will August wait for you?
The Honorable...
I would expect that as you plan to visit, just assure the House that you'll dispatch your senior engineers to go and check the dam immediately.
I will do that, Honorable Speaker. I will do that.
Protas, is that all right? Excellent. Go on, Alice. Dispatch your engineers immediately to go and check, so that we don't have another Solai dam.
I will do that immediately. We will organize ourselves and do that immediately, and then we go and see the progress. Honorable Speaker, the question by Junet is a very general question and possibly an accusation or a generalized condemnation of all the irrigation projects in Kenya, which I think it is an unfortunate position, and I believe the honorable member must have been a big supporter of some of these projects, considering...
Mr. Speaker, I don't know, I think you are consulting with a member. The Cabinet Secretary is saying my question is unfortunate. And my question is very simple, Mr. Speaker. I was asking the Cabinet Secretary, now that the irrigation schemes did not work, the previous ones, what is he going to do differently? That's a very fair question, Mr. Speaker, very fair. Because he's a new person, so what is he going to do differently so that we can have one bag of maize from one irrigation scheme in Kenya?
No question that is fortunate or unfortunate.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is because in his particular constituency, we have 19,000 acres of
irrigated land.
3,500 acres implemented under rice, the crop of rice. So we are growing rice in
yes, order. Yes, Junet, what is out of order?
Mr. Speaker, I will wish to inform the Cabinet Secretary that there is no irrigation scheme in my constituency. We only do sugarcane farming, and that's not done through irrigation, Mr. Speaker. Maybe she's confusing with maybe Bungoma South or North, somewhere else,
Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
I thought, the honorable member, I was not talking about the small constituency, the actual constituency. Nyatik is part of your area of jurisdiction, and therefore you have 3,500 acres of rice crop growing. So, and I don't want to talk about Bura, which is continuing, and we have plans to expand. I think your question was, what plans do I have to make them work better? And therefore, we have plans to expand, raise funding for expanding the existing by increased acreage, and of course, better production will be expected. We have rice in Mwea, we have smallholder farmers under irrigation, and therefore I think I would plead that we get your support to increase more acreage under irrigation, and of course come up with issues like inputs, implements, fertilizers, money for fertilizers to improve and increase production. The ministry hopes by the 5-year term that we have, we are able to reach 1,800 acres of irrigated land. There are several other questions that were raised. Honorable Mayaka, issue of Gusii County.
She just, when are you giving, she says, when are you separating them from Kisii as Nyamira?
I don't know whether you, Honorable Member, you are referring to an agency, under the agency, the Water Development Works Agency, which are under my ministry, or you are seeking a separate company, you know, the Muascos and Muswascos, for example, in Muranga, or Ruasco, or, you know, if it is a water service provider company, that is determined by the governors when they need, because they are the ones doing water provision. In terms of a new development waterworks agency, we will not be able to come up with a new one, but we can improve our reach in case that particular area is not filling the work of the agency covering. And you are under Lake Victoria South Water Works Development Agency. That we can have a conversation on. But the water company liaises kindly with the governor for any more water companies, but the policy of the government and the recommendation is that we should merge the water companies for better service provision, because most of them are actually running at a deficit. We have about 100 billion Kenya shillings incurred and unpaid to the national government and our partners through the water service provider. So we're not recommending increase, further creation of water service provider. We want to improve the governance system for better service delivery. I hope I have covered the question of whether we can raise an extra, the 80 million we are talking about, Honorable Member. We have 50 million for this year. I think that's very good. But because the balance is a small amount, that is something we can have, we can include, possibly if Parliament allows, because you are the ones who do appropriation, budgeting and appropriation, have it included in one of the supplementaries as we move along. But it is possible and it is doable.
You have missed one from Lamu, that when are you going to have a scheme, yes, an irrigation program in Lamu?
The Honorable Member Rueda, I believe we do have irrigation schemes in Lamu. If we don't have, challenge me and I will come to Lamu. We have a conversation. We have water projects for water supply and sanitation, and we do have irrigation schemes in Lamu. It is also under focus when we come up with the Mzima Springs, and Mwache dams. Those two particular dams will sort out most of the water challenges in the coast region, in all our coast counties. And those projects have advanced very well because Mwache has been launched and it has funding from AFT and World Bank. We are now looking for the balance of the money for the two remaining pipelines for Mwache from European Investment Bank. Mzima Springs will provide water through PPP. We have encouraged partners, private
Alice,
partners.
are you sure you are going to
it.
supply water to Lamu from Mzima Springs?
We will release some of the water. We will release once we get. You know, they are sharing water.
Yes, Rweda.
Bwana waziri, biwaziri, itabidi ukaangalie mapu vizuri.
I know where Lamu is.
Let her finish.
Lamu Mashariki mwanzo hakuna irrigation yoyote, na hakika na hilo. Ya pili, Mzizima haitaweza kupita, na hata kama mtabidi mlipitishe kwa lazima, itakuwa ni gharama kubwa zaidi kuliko kuchukua maji hapo Tana River kupeleka Lamu. Kuna kupitisha ndani ya bahari. Hiyo ya Mzizima haiwezi kutusaidia kabisa, haiwezekani. Yetu ni mpange mipango ya kutoka Tana River, unaweza ambia hata KDF wakakachimba canal wakatuletea maji, na hiyo itakuwa ndo suluhisho la kudumu. Tumekuwa kutoka uhuru patikani hatuna maji watu wa Lamu Mashariki, na Bwana Spika, sisi tunasaulika.
Rweda, si nimekusaidia kulifufua? Yes, Alice? You're done? Let's go to the next question. Member Forongo.
I can wait for the question.
Just note, Alice, that is not practically reasonable to talk of taking Mzima Springs water to Lamu. Rongo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 247 of 2023.
I'll give you the next question. There's Abor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 247 of 2023 to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Number one, could the Cabinet Secretary explain reasons behind stalling of the Rongo Town water supply works, despite the project being fully funded by the government in the 2021-2022 budget with an allocation of Kenya shillings 190 million. Question number two, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on how the project funds released by the Exchequer were utilized by the Lake Victoria Waterworks Development Authority? Question number three, could the Cabinet Secretary state the action the Ministry intends to take against the water agency officials if it is confirmed that the funds were misappropriated? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alice, we must be done with this in 10 minutes. The question is very simple. Yes. Money was allocated. The member is alleging that the project was not done properly, and if the money was misappropriated, what is your action?
I think, Honorable Speaker, for Rwanda, we have Garzen Ramu Water Project. That is the one. I was saying that coast region generally, but Garzen will give water to Lamu. And of course, we are also looking at new technology.
We are done with that,
in terms of desalination. Finally, the last question, Mr. Speaker, money misappropriated. The money was not misappropriated. About 170 million Kenya shillings was released. The project is at about 25% completion. The money was used to pay. I don't think it's a very good practice, but there were pending bills, Mr. Speaker, and we have documentation that the money was utilized that way. However, Mr. Speaker, we have pending, because there were also issues of slow intake by the contractor, but now he's moving better. We have provided for that money, and the project will be done as scheduled. In fact, we expect that this project will be completed by December. It is scheduled to be completed by December. We are putting in a higher gear than it was. Thank you. And money is available, Mr. Speaker.
Abor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me first of all thank the CS for confirming that the project was actually fully funded to the tune of 170 million. The only thing, I've seen a written response from the CS. The only thing I don't agree, Mr. Speaker, is why a project that is fully funded by the Exchequer and money has gone to the agency, why that money should be used to pay pending bills. The CS is a distinguished advocate, and she's been a member of this House. She knows that whatever has been budgeted by this House should be used specifically for the intended purpose. And my supplementary question, Mr. Speaker, is if the CS could now confirm to this House, now that she has said that the money has been released back to the project, can she confirm to this House that those funds are not going to be misapplied again? And I'd also like her to confirm that in future she will reprimand government officials who are misapplying funds from specific projects. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in relation to Rongo, where I am the neighbor, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask the Cabinet Secretary that Rongo constituency and the whole of Migori County does not have any sewer, Mr. Speaker, since independence. Mr. Speaker, the last census, that is a county that has a population of over 1 million people. And even in the former municipality area near where the town is, there is over 300,000 inhabitants. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine people of that magnitude using pit latrines since independence, the kind of disease that can occur in that place, diarrhea and many things? People are using pit latrine and septic tank. Does the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary have any plan at all whatsoever in the near future of giving Migori people a sewer line?
Member for Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I first want to say that I also had submitted a number of questions to the Minister, around 6 of them, which, Honorable Speaker, they have not appeared in the list of questions to be answered. And I want to get a clear answer from the table office and the people involved on why the questions are not in the paper, because those were questions that were sent to me by my constituents in Manyata. But Honorable Speaker, now that we are talking about stuck irrigation projects, Honorable Speaker, I have 2 projects. One of them called Kidemo Irrigation Water Project that has been stuck, and farmers have put in their monies to get wayleave from 2019, Honorable Speaker. Also, Honorable Speaker, we have...
One question at a time, member.
It's just an additional irrigation scheme called Modatari, Honorable Speaker, that also farmers have put money, and they were supposed to be partially funded by government. But, Honorable Speaker, those 2 irrigation projects are stuck, and farmers are asking what the ministry is doing about that.
Minister, not that. Member for Chepalungu.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the Minister, aware that an ongoing project, water project is ongoing within my constituency, named Bomet, Longisa, Mulot. This particular project is going to serve water to Sigor. Along the way to Sigor from Kyogong, there is a very dark area called Olesoi Nyambugo. My question is, what plans do you have to erect a tank within Olesoi or Nyambugo so that it can serve the people around there with water? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also just want to ask the CS if it is possible the sewer lines that were done and left hanging within Nairobi and especially in Dagoretti North, Kawangware, Gatina area, if they are able to now finalize those sewer lines and to ensure also the manholes are identified, since many of them have been taken and grabbed.
Haika.
Thank you, Speaker. I also want, now that Mzima Spring has been mentioned, I wanted to ask the Minister, Mr. Speaker, what is the progress of Mzima 2? And again, I also want to ask the Minister that there's an old pipeline that is being repaired, and it is said that the pipeline is going to replace Mzima 2. How true is that, Waziri? Thank you, Speaker.
Zamzam.
Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ningependa kumuuliza waziri atuelezee mradi wa Galana Kulalu imefikia wapi, kwa sababu tumeona wale ambao walitoa msaada kufundwa wanalalamika kuwa wamekuwa wakiwekeza pesa zikipotea, na kule watu wengi wanahangaika chakula. Kwa hivyo ningependa kuuliza mradi huu mpaka sasa umefikia wapi, Mheshimiwa Waziri? Asante.
Farah Maalim. Alice, those are very short questions. I want you to take the shortest time possible.
Mr. Speaker, I also wish to add my voice. There was a master plan for, water master plan for Northeastern Province way back, or the North in general. And the underlying principle was to see how the surface runoff water can be harvested, because that is an area of this country where the rains are always short and we always have one drought cycle after the other. And the idea was so that when this water is being harvested, not only will it eliminate the possibility of the topsoil being eroded and the place becoming barren and desertification also increasing, but also it was going to enable a certain mixed agriculture, which means the people who are going to be exposed to some form of irrigation or some form of agriculture, crop agriculture. Can the minister put some bit of light, even if she doesn't have all the information on this, and tell us when maybe I could even personally see her and we see how that itself is formulated within the ministry and what are the plans to put it into effect in the future? Thank you.
Minister, can answer those. I want you to do that in less than 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I start with the Garana Kuraru? Garana Kuraru project was funded, and we did the first phase of 10,000 acres, and the trial stage for the maize growing occurred, and of course there were many challenges, including compression challenges by the specific contractor. However, we have taken up Garana Kuraru, and we have about three very interested private partners or investors, Mr. Speaker, because we will now not go back to GOK funding, because we have said again and again, and you know, honorable members, that there is no funding for that, but we have three very keen, interested partners. One is already on site, and we have already entered into some arrangement. We have signed an MOU for the trial stage, and maize is growing there for trial stage. They are taking 10,000 acres. We do have plans for a dam. We also have received proposals for project development for a dam to irrigate the balance of the land in Garana Kuraru, and therefore, honorable member, more details I can avail, but we have not abandoned Garana Kuraru irrigation scheme, because it's basically an irrigation land area. Over 350,000 acres are available for irrigation once we deal with the question of water, and that will be addressed by the development of a big dam that we already have. We are in the design space. Master plan by honorable member Farah Marum. Honorable member, your question is very huge, I think I may not be able to answer it now, but we are doing a lot of work in the northern counties, Marsabit, Madera, Garissa, Wajir, and Turkana. Those 5 counties are under special or specific planning for both mapping, groundwater mapping, surface water, and I think because you are also now referring to water for irrigation, it may be important that you visit my office so that I can understand specifically what you need me to address or the ministry to address. But we have secured funding for groundwater mapping for the aquifers to find out where the aquifers are, into the tune of 20 billion under the Horn of Africa program, Honorable Speaker. Then Migori town, one of the challenges for Migori is actually availability of land for projects. We have plans, but we have challenges in terms of implementing, even before we can talk about compensation, people allowing and giving their land. So we do have plans for Migori town, water and sanitation. And if you like, you are welcome to the office. I will avail the technical people to give you more information on where we are. Honorable Aika, Mheshimiwa Aika, Women Member of Parliament for Taita Taveta, I want to confirm that Mzima 2 is an independent project on its own. It has no connection with the current pipeline. The good thing for us is that we shall use the existing wayleaf for purposes of the Mzima 2, and therefore we have no charges of land claims or RAPs. And once we agree with the private investor interested, then we shall be able to commence the project. It's a high priority project. And therefore, the pipeline for the petroleum, the old pipeline, is not our pipeline. So we are working on the Mzima 2. Cheparungu, I think you're asking when we shall do a tank. I do not have that answer now. We can give you that answer later, but construction of a tank is something the national water harvesting can be able to factor in depending on the volume that we need, and therefore within the year we can possibly accommodate that, even if it is planning and budgeting, and then wait to secure funding. Kithimu and Mutatari were irrigation projects. The honorable member wants to know why they are stuck. Where is that answer? May I say that maybe this is something that I need to get informed about by my teams, and because the projects, I think it is just poor work by the contractor, but I would rather give the honorable member more information, and I agree that I will forward. That is something we can avail to the honorable member, including what intervention I, as a minister, will take to ensure that those projects are completed. I believe any person have left out their question? Who? Which question? I think I have covered all the questions. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me, the sewer lines in Nairobi.
Yes. Just finish that, then we release you to go to another. She asked that there are some...
yes, some hanging, lying around of, I think, abandoned
sewer lines that have not been completed.
I would rather that I give the honorable member a more comprehensive answer, because that question has been floated now. But I know that we are working on some of the destroyed pipes that were destroyed during the construction of, for example, the expressway and other areas. So I could maybe cover all that during the response to the honorable member. She's my friend, and actually she can come into the office like every other member, and we can address that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable members, I want to end here with this minister.
I thought I would just get a crap.
Honorable Mulher, you, yes? Alice, the member who is standing now, Honorable Mulher, says she had a question which doesn't appear on the order paper.
Oh,
I don't know if you have her.
maybe it's from
Mandera? Yes.
Yes, this was like, I think the Honorable Speaker, you had said you will allow, is it a supplementary question? There was a question that came late.
As is a substantive question, is not supplementary. It came only yesterday.
Oh, it came to us yesterday. Honorable Member Umulker Kasim. I have some maybe response that could give her.
She has not even asked the question.
Okay.
Honorable Speaker, I can clarify.
Yes.
She already has the question.
She very well may have the question. What I'll direct is that because we have an order, Mulher, I'm not giving you the floor yet. So that we do justice to your question, and members who have questions that are burning, we have the Minister for Lands coming. I want to direct the clerk that immediately after the short recess, the first Wednesday, we'll invite the Minister for Water and give her 1 hour to deal with the questions that are burning among members. So please hold your horses so that we can have Alice here the first Wednesday after the short recess of 2 weeks. We'll give you an hour to come and answer questions. Omulheri's question, the member for Manyata, and all those who have questions like Makali Mulu. I'm not allowing you now. What is the... Yes?
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I want just to alert the Minister that also Kitui Town sewer line is also not operational.
Yes.
So she can also come with a report on what is happening.
Excellent. What is who is the honourable member there?
Member of Parliament, Makueni constituency.
Yes.
And my question is on Thwake Dam. I wish to thank the CS for visiting Thwake Dam in our first days in office. And we had a very fruitful consultative meeting where she assured us that 2 major activities will be done for Thwake Dam. One was the issue of cleaning, making sure that the water is clean in Thwake. 2, having the design done, because by June 2024, Thwake will be operational. In the last 2 months, Thwake has been closed down. And I was just wondering, does the dream still exist? Thank you.
Alice, just note that you'll answer when you come back after recess. Joseph? Give Joseph the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I just wanted to add another question to the CS. The Kapsabet town sewer system, there is a raw sewer running along the road. And I've found out, I've done investigations and realized that the septic tank that was erected some years back is smaller and it can no longer handle the entire sewer system. So I would like for the CS to do her investigations so that next time when she comes here, she'll also be able to answer the same question.
That,
Thank you.
For next time. Yes, member for Mwatate, is it? Ganze. Yes. Give him the mic. Alice, you just note that for next time. Give him the mic. Yeah, there you are.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Okay, this is a follow-up to the question that has been asked by the women rep for Taita Taveta, Lydia Haika. It's on the Mzima 2 project. And I'm glad that the CS has confirmed that this is a priority project for the government. So my question will be, because there has been grapevine that this project is not going to serve Mombasa alone, but it's also going to serve Ganze. And I'm glad the CS made a visit to Ganze in April, and she knows the water situation that we have in that constituency. So my question is, because there's a rumor that this project is going to pass through the pipeline, it's going to pass through Ganze. So I want a confirmation from the CS whether this is true or it's just grapevine. Thank you.
Okay, Alice, you've heard that rumor. You come with it next time. Member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have only two issues. There was a water pan that was done in Mzee Wanyama in a ward called Nakuru East Ward. It was never completed, and we have never known the status of that water pan. And secondly, 5 boreholes, which were given to Nakuru Town East constituency in the second supplementary budget in 2021-2022. I don't know what happened. And we had been given the 5 boreholes, and money was allocated, and we don't know what happened to
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Alice, you are noting that? Oyula, you'll be the very last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to ask the CS about irrigation project that was started in Butula several years back but abandoned because of technicalities. Can the CS look through the ministry's records and let us know when the ministry will resume on the irrigation project that was started in Butula?
Thank you.
Secondly, just
only one, Oyula. Yes, you will be the very last. Member, that's member for Kinango.
Yes.
Yes, Gonzirai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick one. There is a tension actually in Makamini Dam because of the fact that there was actually a disclosure that the Land Commission was supposed to send some valuers by 30th of June. Today, we are on the 5th of July, and the situation actually on the ground is very tense. Can we just get an indication as to when valuers will be on ground? Because we have already lost one person because of the tension on ground. Can you just assist us with just an indication when the valuers are actually on ground to do the evaluation of the people who are displaced?
Honorable Minister Alice Nganga, you've noted all those quick questions. I'm not allowing anybody else, even you. I'm not allowing anybody else. We are now going to release the minister on the rider that she has picked your questions. Those who have more questions, she will be here in the next 3 weeks. Mulyungi, hold your horses. I'll give you the first bite when she comes here. Within the next, including yourself, yes, I'll give you. When, including Ferdinand Wanyonyi, all of you. So let's close here for Alice. Alice, you can see that water, order, Honorable Ferdinand, water is life. You hold a very important ministry. You can see the enthusiasm of the members. Everybody has an issue about water in their constituencies or in their areas. So next, as soon as we resume after 2 weeks, I will allow you the first appearance. Get ready the questions you have picked, and there will be other questions, including the lady from Garissa and the honorable member from Manyata, and all those who have asked questions, and any other that will arise in between.
Safe to correct that I'm Alice Wahome. You have called me Alice Nganga.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hansard.
Alice Nganga is a member of parliament for Thika Town.
Yes.
You're Alice Wahome, my distinguished learned friend who was 1 year behind me at the university. So I know you pretty well.
Yes, thank you.
You are hereby released
Thank you.
to give way to the Minister for Lands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members.
Yes, Order Alice, the chair of the committee that oversees you is agitating.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't have a supplementary question or a question, but as a chair who is oversighting water, I just want to appreciate my cabinet secretary and the entire team from the ministry for the elaborate answers, especially to many of the questions which were asked by members. And secondly, the Honorable Speaker, just to tell my honorable colleagues that for the few months I have been oversighting the ministry has a serious challenges in terms of funding. And Mr. Speaker, in our constitution, the Bill of Rights, water is provided for under Article 43 of the Constitution. It is not, the roads is not there. Electricity is not there. As members of this House, Honorable Speaker, I want to beseech my colleagues that we increase the funding for water. Especially, Mr. Speaker, there is a proposal which the ministry and also I presented before this House, that if there is need, we should have a funding for water, especially for every constituency, so that there is no, the questions we are seeing.
You've made your point. Thank you.
Help. Thank you, Honorable
You've
Speaker.
made your point.
Thank you.
You'll prosecute that before the Budget Committee. Alice, you are released.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time. Thank you. Bring in the Minister for Lands. Lands, Public Works, Housing, and Urban Development. Member for Mwingi Central, get ready to ask your question. Sergeant, the members loudly conversing in the walkway are interfering with the proceedings of the House. Those members out there, can you advise them to move a little further and continue talking from away from the House? Minister for Lands, Public Works, Housing, and Urban Development, welcome to Parliament. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 questions for you this afternoon, and we hope we can do better than the water, if we can do in 1 hour. The first 2 questions are coming from the same member, Honorable Gideon Mulyungi of Mwingi Central. So Honorable Mulyungi, ask your question 084 and 085 together.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 084/2023 to the CS Lands. Number 1, could the CS explain why parcels of land in Mui-Kom Basin, Mwingi East Sub-County, that have errors in their title deeds have not been resurveyed and the errors corrected? And when would they be resurveyed and the errors corrected? Number 2, could the CS indicate when we will land in insecurity-prone areas in Mwingi East Sub-County, bordering Tana River County, will be adjudicated, surveyed, and title deeds issued to the residents? Mr. Speaker, on the Moi-Kom Basin title deeds, I raised this matter in the last Parliament in 2019, and the ministry confirmed it is true there were errors, and they promised to correct.
Ask the next question.
Yeah, but they kept on saying that they don't have facilitation to go to the ground. Mr. Speaker, I ask question number 085/2023 to the same CS. Number one, could the CS provide details of the contract sum and the contract period for the iMust security lighting project undertaken in Mwingi town by the State Department for Housing and Urban Development? Number two, could the CS indicate when the project will be completed and handed over to the county government of Kitui for maintenance? Number three, could the CS provide more iMust security lighting in order to cover a wider area and improve the security in the town? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for inviting me here to come and answer questions from honorable members of Parliament. And before I do that, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Committee on Land and also the Committee on Housing and Public Works for the support they've been offering to the ministry's initiative and also offer more collaboration with this House to better serve the citizens of this great nation. Mr. Speaker, on the first question by the member for Mwingi Central, Honorable Gideon Muliungi, MP, where he requests me to explain why the parcels of land in Mui Coal Basin, Mwingi East sub-county that have errors in their title deeds have not been resurveyed and the errors corrected, and when will they be resurveyed and the errors corrected? Mr. Speaker, the background information in regard to this question is that the coal basin in Mwingi covers 7 registration sections. These were registered after the process of land adjudication in accordance with the Land Adjudication Act, Cap 284 laws of Kenya. And these 7 registration sections are 1, Mutiangombe, 2, Thitha, 3, Kitise, 4, Yumbu, Itiko A, 5, Ngiluni, 6, Ngo, and 7, Kivo. We also have the date these registration sections were registered and the number of titles. Honorable Speaker, in response to this question, I would like to respond as follows. The Honorable Member of Parliament raised an earlier petition number 160/2019 in respect of errors and inconsistencies on the acreage as reflected on the title deeds. A team from the ministry visited the area from November 4th to November 17th, 2019 to assess the situation. The team confirmed that indeed there were errors that occurred during survey of the sections and publication of maps. It was resolved that surveys be carried out and the erroneous titles be recalled for corrections. Mr. Speaker, due to financial constraint, this has not been done. The ministry will prioritize to undertake the activities in the financial year 2023-2024. Honorable Speaker, in response to question 2, where we should indicate when we land in insecurity-prone areas of Mwingi East, sub-county bordering Tana River County will be adjudicated, surveyed, and title deed issued to the residents, I would like to respond as follows. The area was declared an adjudication section named Egamba Kandolongwe on November 24th, 2016, and due to staff shortage, work commenced on April 11, 2022, and demarcation is ongoing. The adjudication process will be fast-tracked so that it is concluded in the financial years of 2023-2024 and 2024-2025. The Ministry, Honorable Speaker, will also liaise with the Ministry of Interior and National Administration to ensure security is provided for successful implementation of adjudication program. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether I also go to the second question.
Yes.
Thank you. The second question by the same Member of Parliament, Honorable Gideon Muliungi. Honorable Speaker, I'm meant to provide details of the contract sum and contract period for the high-mast security lighting project undertaken in Mwingi Town by the State Department for Housing and Urban Development. Also indicate when will the project be completed and handed over to the county government of Kitui. And then part 3, consider adding more high-mast security lights in order to cover a wider area and improve security in the town. Honorable Speaker, I wish to respond as follows. The project was awarded to MS Biomax Africa Limited of PO Box 91131-80100 Mombasa on June 3rd, 2020, with a contract sum of 18,599,150, inclusive of all taxes. The agreement between MS Biomax Africa Limited and the accounting officer was signed on July 29th, 2020, and the high masts were erected in the following locations in Mwingi Sub-County, Kitui County. One was in Musila Gardens, KCB, Country Bus, Kenya Power, and Probox Stage. The contract data, Mr. Speaker, was for project. The project installation was of 5 electric-powered high-mast flood lighting structures in various informal settlements in Kitui County. The contract number was as indicated there. The contractor was MS Biomax Africa Limited. The client was Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development, State Department of Housing and Urban Development, and it was from the Slum Upgrading Department. The user or beneficiary was the county government of Kitui, and the supervisors was the Public Works, Kitui County. Contract sum was 18,599,150. Commencement date was September 3rd, 2020, and completion date was March 18th, 2021, and the work done was 100%. Honorable Speaker, electric-powered high-mast flood lighting structures in various informal settlements in Kitui County was 18,599,150. The contract period of 28 weeks plus a 6-month defects liability period. Then there was the project officially commenced on September 3rd, 2020, and was completed on March 18, 2021. Certificate of practical completion was issued on December 15, 2021, and the certificate of making good defects was issued on June 15, 2022. Honorable Speaker, in response to question 2, I wish to respond as follows. There were 2 meetings as well as site inspections to hand over the high masts to the county government of Kitui on January 14, 2022 and June 21, 2022. The handing over was postponed due to a pending Kenya Power and Lighting Company bill of Kenya shillings 454,720 that was not factored in the contract. The bill has since, Mr. Speaker, been settled, and the ministry is making arrangements for handover to the county government of Kitui. Honorable Speaker, in response to question number 3, the ministry will consider adding more high-mast flood lighting to cover a wider area and also ensure security once the budget is allocated. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary, Honorable Mulungi. Do you have any supplementary or you are satisfied?
Yeah, I have a supplementary. On question number 084, stroke 2223, Roman 1 and 2. Yeah, on Mui Basin, I think the CS should be very clear and practical on the timelines, because he says within the year. So I need to know within what period will they be going back to the site to start surveying. Roman number 2, on the titling of the border with Tana River, there is only one surveyor on site. He will take ages to complete, more than decades to complete. So could the CS add extra surveyors to support that exercise? On question number 085, stroke 2023, on the IMAST, security lighting. Now, the CS has said that he will consider adding more lights when funds become available. I think budget has just been read. He should be telling me, is there provision in the budget for additional IMAST or not, so that it is not a story. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Hold, Mr. Minister. I'll Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. These questions had been forwarded correctly, so I'll just ask them as they were, though they did not appear on the order paper. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why Muhaya Sub-County has not been having a land control board since 1919? And number 2, why is the Muhaya Sub-County not appearing in the newly gazetted list of land control board members for the respective sub-counties around the country, despite the Vihiga County Commissioner having submitted the list of the nominees for all the sub-counties in Vihiga? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
In regard to the titlage of South Ngariama land, including the procedure and rationale of adjudication process being undertaken, 2, whether the ministry is relying on the original mapping done by
Thank you, Speaker. Can the CS also inform Nairobians, especially the schools, Lavington Primary School, Mudhangari Primary School? Why is it first Mudhangari, the title to date? You will never find it even in the Lands Ministry. And after digitization was done, Mr. Speaker, we affected so many things. Lavington Primary is 21 acres, and right now, it is so encroached, and if possible, we can meet him with all the stakeholders to ensure we deal with the matter once and for all.
Edith? Honorable Edith Nyanzi.
Thank you, Speaker. Let me find out from the CS when compensation will be done to the people who gave out land when the Kibwez Kitui Mwingi Road was being done. There are some people who gave out land. They signed some forms with the National Land Commission, and they've not been compensated for a very long time. And my people in the constituency are affected. So when will they be compensated? Thank you.
Zamzam.
Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kumuuliza waziri kule Dongo Kundu ambapo wameanza special economic zone pale. Kuna wakazi ambao walikuwa hapo miaka mingi sana, walikuwa na mashamba eka 10, 20, lakini wanalia kuwa wanapewa 50 by 100 na saa zingine unapelekwa sehemu ambazo hata wawezi kukaa vizuri, sehemu ambazo ni tata katika ardhi. Kwa hiyo ningependa kujua umewapangia vipi wakazi wa Dongo Kundu na watafidiwa vipi mashamba yao? Asante sana.
Minister, can you answer those supplementary? I'll come back to you. Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. In regards to the first question, 084-2023, I want to assure the Honorable Member that there is a budget allocation of 100 million towards the project of high masks. And it's good also to note there were areas that were never even got those facilities. So once we look at this budget, then we'll be able to see whether we can have additional high mask security lights. So it's good to note that we cut across all the counties, and kindly appreciate what you got first. But I can assure you, once funds allow, we are going also to have additional. On allocation, the other issue is on the Amuhoya. Yes, Amuhoya. Yes, we have areas that were left behind on the Lands Control Board. What we do as a ministry, we write to the county commissioners who, through their DCCs, are supposed now to come up with names and then forward them to the ministry for gazettement. So what I want to assure the honorable member is that I'll take up the issue, but also you can visit the ministry so that we can follow it up with you. And it's unfortunate that the constituency has stayed for such long without a lands board. The other question is in regards to the Lavington Primary School and Mudhangari. Honorable Member, Honorable Speaker, there's a team working on public lands across the country. We know there have been rampant grabbing of public land, so there's a team that is working, and that report will help the ministry deal with issues of land that has been grabbed, and Lavington Primary and Mudhangari will be one of those. On the compensation of some land, Honorable Speaker, the issue on compensation for public land is entirely with the National Land Commission. So this is an issue that we'll pick with the National Land Commission to see how they are going to fast track that issue. On the Dongo Kundu compensation, this is usually based on the size of the land that is being processed. Kwa hivyo wale ambao wamepewa sehemu ndogo za ardhi, kama sio wote, basi kama wizara tutaangalia ni jinsi ipi ambayo tutaweza kuwasaidia. Lakini we are trying to make sure every person gets compensation. So if there will be any issues that will need to be looked into, the ministry is ready to do that, Mheshimiwa. On the issue of titling, Honorable Speaker, I want to assure this Honorable House that where we have few staff, we have advertised for more recruitment, and in this financial year, we are going to have, though not adequate number of staff, we are going now to spread those we will get to make sure that we fast track areas that need our attention. I think, Honorable Speaker, I've covered that.
Jerry, there is one question from the distinguished member for Kirinyaga, the women rep. She asked about some specific. Jerry, can you repeat your question? You got it, Minister?
Yeah, maybe she can repeat it, please.
Jerry?
That's in order. I almost complained, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. My question says, could you provide information in regard to the titleage of the South Ngariama land, the procedure and the rationale of the adjudication currently being undertaken, and two, whether the ministry is relying on the original mapping done by GeoAcre Limited, and if not, indicate which one and the rationale behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. With the South Gariama land, there is a team that is working to make sure that that process is done, but I would request, Honorable Member, you can visit us in the ministry so that we can look into the whole issue and do that process seamlessly. So I would request that you visit the ministry so that we can handle that issue with you and other leaders. Thank you.
Yes, Jeanette. What about Jeanette? Give Jeanette the mic.
Mr. Speaker, I want to seek your indulgence on a matter. Mr. Speaker, when the cabinet secretaries come here, most of them, their answers to certain questions is, you can visit us in the office. We don't want to visit. We want answers here in Parliament. This is our place of operation, Mr. Speaker. We don't want to go and take tea in the offices.
Indeed, Minister, once a question comes to the floor as a property of this House, it no longer becomes a private engagement between any member and the minister. So try as much as you can to answer questions. Where you don't have ready answers, we can indulge you to write to the House, and the member will be notified, or we will call you within the shortest time possible to answer questions that you may not have been having the facts readily available to you. But we discourage this camaraderie of moving away questions from being the House property to a private engagement between a member. The moment I approve a question, it ceases to be an engagement between a member and the minister. It's a property of the House. Yes, Mulyongi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I'll come to you.
Mr.
Yes,
Speaker, in my supplementary question, there are some questions which the CS has skipped. He has not answered. And one of them is regarding Mui Basin. I asked you about the timelines. It's not, you told me about the Wulia. You look at the Wulia and see what you can do.
You made your point.
So, number two, that's
yes.
one. I want timelines on that. Number two, I cannot agree with the CS that Kenyan government does not have surveyors, because he's saying he's recruiting. How do you recruit to supply surveyors?
Ask him a question.
So CS, can you assure me that you are going to add more surveyors at the border of Tana River for surveying the land? Thank you.
Thank you. Oundo, what is the problem?
Probably it's just a matter of a policy matter, and I want the Cabinet Secretary, and picking up where Honorable Beatrice Elachi had left about Kileleshwa Primary School land. I'm sure the Cabinet Secretary is aware that many primary schools, public primary schools in this country, have no titles, have no ownership registration documents. And it's even more telling, Honorable Speaker, for those schools that the community vested land. And we have cases where the patriarch or the matriarch who gave out land for the particular school never completed the process. Many of the primary schools, because of delayed in transfer of funds from the national government, are unable to put in funds to acquire a title because they require a government surveyor. A government surveyor would want to be facilitated transport, paid for lunch, there are certain payments to be made. Can the minister probably in due course with his team come up with a very clear policy framework that will reduce the burden and the cost of the impoverished schools so that they can be given some kind of remission. They prepare and acquire titles to avoid encroachment and the so-called referred land grabbing, which does not even exist in practice. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister.
Honorable Speaker, for the Mui Coal Basin issue, as I said, we are going to have it done in this financial year 2023-2024, and I want to assure the honorable member that once funds are released within 60 days, we will have done that work. Two, for the surveyors, for our staff and surveyors, we are mobilizing. We'll mobilize those whom we have, and I can assure you that work. The one surveyor will be added, and we'll have more of them now working towards doing that work. Honorable Speaker, as a ministry, we have a titling program for all public learning institutions. We have a committee that is working towards that, and through our national titling program, we are going to issue titles to all learning institutions without charging them anything. So we know that most of those learning institutions have been grabbed, and what we'll do for those who have grabbed, once that committee comes up with that report, then we'll make sure that land reverts back to where it is supposed to be. So there's a national titling program that is working towards public learning institutions, and we are working so closely with the Ministry of Education to achieve that. Thank you.
Yes, Oundo.
Honorable Speaker, unfortunately, from our training, when you make a pronouncement, there must be deliverables. And the one of the deliverables, the time when to deliver. When a lady conceives, it's expected after 9 months, not more than 9 months, they deliver.
What is your question?
Can the Cabinet Secretary give us exact timelines when that program is going to be actualized, come to an end, and what are the deliverables? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Yes, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, this is an ongoing program for the last 2 years. Of course, we are meeting, we are facing challenges, but I can assure you there are institutions today that already are titled. They have their tenure of ownership. So maybe we have not reached where Mheshimiwa is, but this is an ongoing program. It has been there for the last 2 years, and we are happy that we are achieving a lot towards that.
Thank you. Yes, member for Chepalungu. Let's take 3, then we...
Thank you. Once again, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have a question, and I know this answer maybe will come next when the minister will be in the house. There is a small village in my constituency. For your benefit, I'm called Victor Koech Mandazi, member for Chepalungu. There's a small village in my constituency, popularly known as Leget 88. It is next to Siongiroi, which is a very popular town. There were families in the 1990s that were asked for land, to surrender land to the government for government construction. And it's now housing the current DC's office, the chief's office, the hospital, and majorly Shongiroi Day Secondary School, and currently now KMTC, that is within my constituency. These families are 3. They surrendered their land, and they were promised land next to Shongiroi Girls. The village is called Leget 88 Village. Up to now, there are 300 families without proper documentation. My question is, now that maybe you're not aware, what amount of time would your office require to make sure these persons living next to Shongiroi Girls High School have proper documentation for their land? Thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kaluma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member, you are masked. I can't quite tell who you are.
Kirima. It's Honorable Kirima. Honorable Speaker, I have two supplementary questions to the ministry. Honorable Speaker, the one matter hindering titling or issuance of titles to lands across the country is disappearance of records at the lands ministry. And therefore my question is, how is the ministry dealing, or what measures is the ministry taking to ensure that records relating to land that disappear at the ministry are replaced and restored to the owners to enable not just titling, but also the rightful owners to engage in transactions? Honorable Speaker, we have several parcels of land across the country, and even those where some including ourselves, are taking mortgages which cannot be traced at the ministry. What measures have you instituted? But lastly, Honorable Speaker, when we hear titling, more so for us coming from Homa Bay County, it is like stories. Places like mine in Homa Bay Town constituency, the village area, even my own ancestral land on which I've built my home, we don't have titles. What measures do you have in place or have you instituted as a ministry to ensure that those parts of the country which are not yet titled, like those ones I'm talking about, are also titled, and the people who rightfully own can also deal in land and transact business? I thank you.
Kirima.
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My humble question to the Minister for Lands is that Central Imenti award called Care Award, we have an adjudication section called Care MB, which was adjudicated way back in the year 2003. Titles have not been issued. I have asked a number of questions before this Honorable House. And even now, before the ministers started coming to the Parliament, there was a question which we asked and it has never been responded to. We know very well that Meru County has been having issues of title deeds. But when it comes to attendance, Meru County, Meru North, Tigania, Igembe, and parts of Bole have been attended to. Why is Central Imenti not been attended to as relates to issuance of title deeds in that remaining section, which borders the Raka sub-county of the Rakanidi County? Who are those who prevented it to be issued? And why has that gathering has not been honored, Mr. Minister? Thank you, sir.
Minister, can you answer those?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The issue of the Chepalungu, where families were displaced and promised, surrendered their land, where government institutions were built. Honorable Speaker, that the issue on compensation of government land lies with the National Lands Commission. So what I will do, I'm going to liaise with the National Lands Commission on this issue so that next time I come, Honorable Speaker, I can be able to give light to that particular question. On the disappearance of land records, Honorable Speaker, we are aware as a ministry that this has been a big problem, and that's why as a ministry we took that bold step of digitizing all our land records. We started with Nairobi, where now we are scanning all the land documents ready for digitization, and from there we are going to move to all other registries in the country. Currently, what other registries are doing is arranging documents ready for scanning so that we can be able to have all those records in the ADISASA platform. Once we do that, Honorable Speaker, then the human the human touch with the manual records is going to, we are going to do away with that. So there's not going to be interference of our records, and that's why all of us should support this digitization program. And I can assure you, 95% of the problems we have within the land ministry is going to be taken care of. The Central Imenti issue, it's true, we have been having that issue, and I remember I had a question to tackle at the Senate, but we've been having a security problem between the Tharaka Nithi and the Meru boundaries. So, yeah, the dispute. So we are handling that, and once we solve that problem, then we are going to start issuing titles within that area. Thank you.
Yes, member for Ganze.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two supplementary questions.
Only one.
Okay, Mr. Speaker. Okay, I want to know from the CS for lands and settlement, the circumstances under which Giriama Ranch land that is in Ganze. Yeah, this is a ranch that was started by the community, and they had wanted to do some livestock farming. But at some point, the project collapsed. But what is not clear is how that title deed for that land, which was freehold, at some point it turned to leasehold, and only a few people now are owning that property. So I want to know from the CS under what circumstances that land changed from freehold to leasehold. Thank you.
Minister, we'll have to make progress, members.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thanks for that question. Honorable Speaker, I wish to respond to that question in the next meeting, because it was really not part of the questions that I was handling today. And also, Honorable Speaker, I would ask for your indulgence that maybe the supplementary questions be based on the questions.
Not necessarily, but that's a fair request. Caleb Amisi. Caleb Amisi. I have no written notification that the requirement, Honorable Wamboka, is any member who is unable to come and prosecute his question must write to the Speaker to inform the Speaker of one, his inability or her inability to be in the House, and to nominate and designate a particular member to prosecute the question. On this particular issue, I have no letter from the Honorable Amisi at all. I don't cast any aspersions on you, but the rules are rules. They are your own rules. We have no letter from him, so I won't allow you. Next question, Jack. Yes. Ordinarily, I would have dropped the question, but in this mix, we will stay it for the next time the minister comes. David Gikaria. Question. And for all members, if you have a question and you are unable to be in the House for reasons that the House will understand, designate a colleague in writing to the Speaker that so-and-so will be the one to prosecute my question. We have done so before. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 109 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a detailed report on the names and periods of engagement of persons, particularly youth and elders, who are engaged in Kazi Mtaani Project Phase 3 in 2022 in Nakuru Town East constituency? 2, provide the status of payment of dues
to the people who are engaged in the said Phase 3 Kazi Mtaani project in Nakuru Town East constituency, and 3, outline the plans that have been put in place to ensure that youths who are yet to be paid are duly paid, and when will they be paid following termination of Kazi Mtaani project. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On the question number 4, part 1, where I'm requested to provide a detailed report on the names and periods of engagement of persons, particularly youths and elders who are engaged in the Kazi Mtaani project Phase 3 in 2022 in Nakuru Town constituency. Honorable Speaker, in response to the above question, I wish to respond as follows. The outbreak of COVID-19 in Kenya in 2020 prompted the government to adopt containment policies and measures to limit the spread of the virus across the country. These measures limited movement of the population and as a result caused a contraction of the economy. In response to the challenge above, the National Hygiene Program, well known as NHP...
Minister, which question are you answering? The question is so simple. Provide detailed report on the names and the period of engagement of persons, particularly youths and elders.
Yes, I was just giving a background information.
Try and you can say how many members want to ask questions.
Okay.
So don't scatter around questions, just answer questions.
Okay, well guided, Honorable Speaker.
You've seen the question?
Yes.
Provide a detailed report on names and the period of engagement of persons. Provide status of payment dues to these people, and so on and so forth. Very simple questions. Pardon? We are on question 109 of 2023. Asked by the Honorable David Gikaria, the man from your own county.